We'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast with and for interesting people. And I've got my good friend Tom Kunz on today. And this one's Tom is one of the most interesting people I've ever known. He's a very dear friend. His observations over the last 20 years in my life have been significant. I thought about maybe sharing about all the things that Tom's done that are significant in my life, that all the impacts and all the things he's taught me. But then I thought, well, Tom wouldn't be doing any of the talking. I'd just be sharing the whole time. So Tom, for our listeners, maybe you could start out with introducing yourself and telling something about yourself.
Sure. Tom Kunz, my name. I was born and raised in Ogden, Utah. Really, I went to a lot of college, but never really graduated. I spent some time in the Army, went to Vietnam, came back, and started a few small companies in Ogden with a couple of friends. Had a small construction group. We had a computer company that was fairly successful, and then I moved on to Century 21 and spent 30 years with Century 21. Came in as a manager of a tech project called CenturyNet, and roughly 30 years later, left as president CEO worldwide for them. And then had a 2-year non-compete. Company by the name of Engel & Volkers from Germany called me up, and I've been now with them for about 12 years. So now you've got the whole story. I guess I've got 4 kids, 3 daughters and a son, 10 grandkids, 1 great granddaughter. I have was married, divorced, and now married to both ladies were great. But Donna is my current wife, and really enjoyed the last 26 years living and working with her.
Nice. So in the last, I don't know, how old are you?
I am 75. I'll be 76 this year.
Nice. So in the last 15 years, what are some things that you've learned that you wish you'd have known when you were 60 years old?
Well, it's interesting because that's a very interesting question. I think some of the things that I've learned is that have patience. You can drive and drive and drive, which I tended to do, but what I found is that if you just take your time, understand what you're really looking to do. I don't mean take forever, but at least analyze it a little bit, that things tend to move a little bit easier than if you're just diving in with both feet, which is typically what I used to do. And I think I've told you this, but in all the major jobs that I've had, I don't know that I ever entered any of them fully feeling like I was qualified for those jobs. But I just dove in and found out what I needed to find out, and everything seems to work out.
Yeah, I remember when, I've got 8 grandkids and 7 kids, 8 grandkids and 2 more on the way. I remember when Daniel, he's 12, interesting. So he was born right when you started with Engel & Volkers. I didn't realize that. And when he was not yet born, I was asking a number of individuals, men that I respected, on suggestions on what it would be, what they would recommend to be an amazing grandfather. And you said something that nobody else said. And you said, Mark, rather than focusing in on the grandkids, focus in on your daughter and her husband, and watch them carefully and see from their perspective. And I did that. And and it's been interesting, and very helpful. So now you're moving into a new season, being a great grandparent. Any insights or thoughts there?
Well, it's interesting because, like I said, she was born in December of last year, about the 18th of December. And so I've only really been up and been with her one time. I plan to hopefully get up there more this summer and be able to, you know, hopefully grow up a little bit with her. But yeah, so it's I hate to say it, but I just haven't really spent the amount of time that I need to and will eventually. But
Interesting.
she's a beautiful little girl.
Very nice. Very nice. So you're like, I don't know. I want it's almost like my mind is overwhelmed on you know, all of the things you and I have experienced in the last 20 years together. Um, I was just telling somebody today about you, actually, about our first conversation where I asked you, you were president of Century 21 at the time, and I asked you what your life vision was, and changing how real estate is done throughout the entire country. Um, and then you asked me, well, Mark, what's your life vision? And I told you, touch every single person in the world, one person at a time, make a huge difference in every aspect of their life in a really fun and exciting way. And you didn't even pause. It was just natural. It was just, oh, you'll do it. I'm like, excuse me. And you're like, yeah, you'll do it. I'm like,
And you are.
I'm working on it. But man, it's cool to have, a life vision that's bigger than death. When you have a life vision that's bigger than death, you get over stuff. You'd like, life is not always, often it's not what you planned or wanted it to be. And that's okay. That's okay. Um, so then I thought about, the golf pro principle. Well, I thought about when we wrote the book together, Community Business Partnerships, and you talked about your dad and about the gas station, and thought about that and the significance of that, and how that has, that the observation, seeing things that, first thing that the customer sees, focus on the customer. Then I thought about the golf pro principle and, and taking ownership and, hey, man, take ownership of it. So I thought about writing down everything and just going through, but then I thought, I don't know, I'm just gonna go with the flow and see where it goes. Um,
I'm surprised you remember all that stuff.
it's interesting, Tom, because I think, I remember, that 2 years, like you between where you had a non-compete. Man, we hung out a lot,
Yeah, we did. Traveled around and yep,
traveled
met a lot
around,
of people and
yeah, and spent like a lot of podcasts. Like we were on so many, and it's weird because I remember you saying, um, Mark, why you need me on these, and I'm like, well, I could think of a lot of reasons why I need you. He said, no, the number one reason. I said, what do you think it is? And you said, my stories. And it's
yeah,
true.
I probably have a lot of stories, that's for sure.
What's
But I
strange to
spent a
me,
lot of time, not only growing up myself, but yeah, as you know, I spent a lot of time growing up with my dad and his friends, his business associates, and at a very young age, got to sit and listen to these fine gentlemen talk about what they did, and it was diverse. There were bankers and a lawyer, and my dad obviously with his service station business, and a restaurateur, and so hearing all of the things that they were going through and what they were doing, um, I learned a lot, and
I met a guy that reminds me of you. He's ex-Amish, Mennonite now. His name's Alvin Miller. We're thinking about maybe buying one of his many buildings, office, commercial building at 17,000 square feet, and it has a bank in it. Interesting guy. It's just, he said he remembers, so he's 83 years old, and that guy is just young, sharp as a tack. I mean, man, this guy is amazing. And he's like, remember when I was 14 years old? And he said, I had some real issues with my dad. And he said, and then at 14, I realized, why am I competing against my dad? That makes no sense. So I stopped. I'm like, he's just his awareness. And then I said, like, it was weird. He and I were in the conference room talking, and then he had two realtors on his side. I had a realtor, and then my son-in-law, and then Kenny, a business partner. And it's almost like so many of our conversations where we're talking and all time stands still. And all it is him and I talking. And after, like, he tears up, right in the middle of a conversation, he tears up, and it was like all time stood still. And he said, yeah, when I was younger, I was not on the right track. Somebody went ahead and somebody stood in. So here's an 83-year-old guy saying, I was on the wrong track. I was going down a wrong direction. And he tears up and he says, and somebody was there for me. And so
But
later,
I think that's how we all are, if we're aware that as we go through life and we rely on the things that we've heard and seen and done. And but more importantly, there are people throughout our lives that kind of give us that extra push to move to the next level. And I've been very, very, thankful for all those folks that have helped me. And you're one of those.
See, this is what I don't understand. Like when you say aware, it's like why aren't people aware? Like I just so he and I go out for coffee, I don't know, a week or two after that, and we're sitting there, and I said, hey, it's just him and I this time, and I said, he kind of teared up a little bit, and but I was curious, like like why, what was kind of the reasoning or something. And then he's like, my mom, she was very distant from me. And he went into his mom and some of the things there, and it was just, it was just really, it was weird. Going all the way back. and And then I said, I didn't know if it had anything to do or you were going on the wrong track. I don't know if that was when you were a teenager or something, a room springer. And no. And he's like, oh no, that was when I was in second grade that I was off track. And I'm like,
But it's interesting because I think a lot of times we talk about our parents, and most of the time with guys anyway, I think it gets back to dads, but I think mothers play a far bigger point in our lives than we probably really give them credit for. And I think one of the things my mother always taught me was you always have to help the underdog. And it was interesting the way she said it, because the first time I really recognized it, although she probably said it a lot of times, was I was going to a dance, and she said, make sure you dance with every girl who would like to dance with you or will accept it, no matter what you think of them, no matter who they are, or no matter what's going on, because they're all valuable. And I've always remembered that.
Yeah. So I didn't say I wasn't gonna tear up today. Um, I figured I probably would. It's just a matter of time. So
Well, I think
yesterday,
the older you get, the more you do that. I do it the drop of a hat anymore. Donna kids me about it all the time, but I don't
right,
care.
right.
Yeah.
So yesterday, was was my mom's birthday,
Oh,
and it was also Jonathan's birthday. And before Ginger Ann's pregnancy, she lost one. So she has five kids now. So she lost one, Emma, and that was her due date was yesterday. So it was
I had the
weird.
pleasure of meeting your mother. We had
You
a
did?
conversation. Yeah, I
Oh
remember
yeah,
we
in the
had a
conversation,
conversation.
right?
Yeah,
Right. I remember that it was her, Rosanna, my wife, and Ginger Ann, all three of them. And at the
yeah.
end of that, you said, "Man, that was one of the best podcasts I've ever seen." Like that was just like they all three of them. Your mom was just is magical.
She was. I think most mothers are too.
I think they are. They are. So Alvin said, he said, "Yeah, I was in second grade, and he said I was really angry. I had a huge anger issue." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "And there was a 15-year-old girl." And he said, "We were in a one-room schoolhouse. So it was all the kids were together in one room schoolhouse. There's a 15-year-old girl that she came to me and she talked to me as if I was like a peer, like an adult. It's like, and she helped me see my anger issue and she helped me." He said the strangest thing. So he's 83. He said, he says, "Interesting. I just talked to her like last week. I bumped into her again." And I thought, like, here's a boy who's in second grade, and a 15-year-old girl like sees that like he's off track, and she has enough courage or care, compassion.
But I think that's women have the ability to see I believe internally, so that they can see those other factors. It was interesting because I took some counseling a few years ago, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking with this lady, and then she asked me, she says, "Were you in the service?" I said, "Yes," and she said, uh, "You have PTSD?" And I said, "No," and she goes, "Yeah, you do." And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Anybody who's been in a war zone in some form or fashion always has some traits of PTSD." And it's interesting because just in the last little while, I found myself I fire off a lot faster than I used to, and then I have to stop myself, and I think that's probably part of that issue of the PTSD coming back.
Huh. So the PTSD is, so you fire faster then?
Yeah, like I hate to say it, but I got to admit it that there's usually I could just kind of walk through things, but lately I don't know why. There's just little things tend to I react to them and then immediately pull back. But it's just it's that initial flare that it's been interesting to watch. What's taking place. So, but I think that's probably part of growing old too. Um, and I remember I saw you flashing through some models on the screen, and I remember a lot of those models that we used to talk about and look at and analyze, and I really enjoyed those times.
It was funny because I remember showing you this one here. his
Yep.
personality types and mental health, and we go through, list all of them based on the personalities, and you're like, gosh, Mark, I got all those issues.
But it's interesting. I remember that personality mastery class was the first time, and I think I even said it was, that it really was an operational manual for the way that I think. And ever since then, it has direct, I've used those models to somewhat direct where I'm going and what I'm doing, and trying to share some of that with other people. And it's interesting too. I think one of the things I've also found in being older is I tend to start to look for younger people that I think have an ability that nobody else has kind of really recognized yet. And I've got about 3 or 4 of them now that have kind of helped move and got them started on the track. And it's very, very rewarding.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've seen that. It's almost like it's kind of weird, but I remember when you turned 60 and you said, Mark, now that I'm 60, I'm caring less and less about what people think about me. And
Oh,
I just
hey,
and I just turned 60 this year.
I just can't do stupid.
Right?
Uh, oh yeah, I can't. And I can't do anybody, but I see it more specifically in younger people that really don't care about their job. They've never really learned how to do it right, or there's no service oriented approach to things. And maybe it's just me, I don't know, but I don't think so. Because I was, as you said, I was taught a long time ago that, no matter what, you got to see everything through the consumer's eyes. No matter what you're selling, no matter what service or product, if you're not looking at that through the eyes of the consumer that you're going to offer it to, and understand the questions that they may have, and try to help them understand how your product or service may help them. But I don't know. I'm just seeing a lot of different things going on that are kind of interesting.
So what do you think about today's current affairs in America and throughout the world, like mindsets and those types of things?
Well, now you're going to walk me down a road that probably a lot of people aren't going to like, but um, it's sad. It's really sad. I was talking to a person that I work with, Caitlin Castellano, who's an unbelievable lady, and she was attending an Asian uh, association meeting in Washington D.C. And she made a statement on one of our calls and said, I've really seen a lot of things in the world that I hadn't really thought about. And so this morning, actually, we were on a call, and I said, "Hey, Caitlin, when we get time, I'd really like to have you tell me, what those things were." She says, I'll give you a good idea. And I said, all right. She said they opened every meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance
Wow.
and sung the national anthem. And I couldn't even talk. Still can't. Why doesn't every association do that? I don't understand it. And then to sit here and see that we have an ally that we have an ally that we're now the decision today that we're not going to send them the armament that they may need to do whatever they're going to do, but yet we're willing to spend billions and billions of dollars on to a guy that we don't even know, and I'm not even sure what that would make out. And I'm sure that's going to piss a lot of people off, but you know what? You ask the question, I'm telling you what I think.
It's interesting because Tim and I, our youngest son, he's now 23, and he and I are doing a podcast every Sunday morning and or Sunday afternoon, and on addictions or mental health or all of that kind of stuff. And so, our conversations when he and Ben were on the line, and Tim used to ask the most fascinating questions. And then when Ben and you and I were out in San Antonio, and you spoke, and Ben spoke, and then I spoke. And so Ben is doing a Ben is doing a podcast on passions. See, voices of integrity, it's like nobody's telling anybody the truth anymore. It
Oh, there
seems
is no, yeah, there is no news. It's just all commentary.
so. It's weird because my brother Ken, you met him, my youngest brother, and Ben, both on the same time. Like they said to me around the same time, they said, Mark or Dad, your feelings are really important. See, Tom, I didn't realize my feelings were really important. And I didn't realize they're very important. And when they told me that, I was caught off guard. I'm like, are they really? And what's weird is my wife says that I'm more of a woman than she is. What she means by that, like my personality is stereotypical man, driver, analytic, it's just very male, stereotypical, but emotionally and connection, and like I understand that, like my feelings, but like our feelings, like I think we've got it all wrong. Like our feelings reveal more about us than they do about other people. But people are using their feelings now, they're weaponizing them. And so I discovered the quantum feeling model. And there's three things that I think are in thinking that that are it's like a virus, it's like a pandemic. It's like in how we think. And it's going down the wrong way. And so it's entitlement, self-righteousness, and victimhood. And these all three seem to be like they interconnect. They like somebody will think they're entitled to something, and then all of a sudden they think they're really smart and really like their way is the right, like my way is I'm right. And I'm like, how can you be so confident? And then they're a victim. And I thought, okay, these are three feelings that are just spreading. It's spreading throughout the whole world. It's like the social media and all the technology. It's like it's spreading, and it's like all of a sudden, like one thing I realized, Tom, is you can tell if somebody's too connected into a group. So we're all part of groups. Like I'm a man, I'm a white male over 50. I'm a dad, was raised a Christian. I'm American. And so we're part of groups of people. And so what's weird is on how like people want all the benefits of being part of a group, but they don't want any of the liabilities. They don't want any of the downsides of being part of that group. And so it's like if you criticize a part of a group, that whole group seems to attack you like almost like an infection in the body, and they try to kill you, sometimes literally. It's like it's
Yeah.
weird. So I'm like, what's the vaccine or the inoculation for entitlement and thankfulness? What's the vaccine or the antidote for the self-righteousness? It's humility. And what's the vaccine for victimhood? It's ownership. But it's like these three, thankfulness and humility and ownership, they're hard work. They just are. Especially if you have hard things happen, which I think we all do. These things are easy. Like these things are childish things. It's like it's easy to feel that we're entitled or we're self-righteous or we're victims, and it's like it's spreading, and it's
I think a lot of it, though, I think we've probably humanity has probably always felt that way. But I think it's just the introduction of the ability to instantly say things without having to be identified and through technology and your cell phone and all this other stuff that just allows people to spout off on stuff they probably don't know anything about. And we never had that when I was growing up. So you were, I think, more held accountable to the thoughts you had. And even the thoughts I had, I couldn't get out to the masses because it was just the local market that I was in and lived in. And
Yeah,
now I
I think,
can say anything to the whole world in a matter of seconds.
yeah, and then people are coming together and they're hanging out with other people who think like they think, and so all of a sudden you get a whole bunch of people, or maybe a little group of people, but they're very vocal and they come together and they validate one another immensely, and all of a sudden, because one or two or 10 or 100 people think the way I think, then all of a sudden what I'm thinking must be the right way of thinking, and it's like there's
Yep.
not critical thinking.
All right. Or accountability.
Right, right. So, any other closing comments, Tom, that you have, or thoughts, or something you feel that you've seen that you wish you'd have seen earlier, younger in life, or observations of today's society, or things that people can learn or grow from?
Well, it's always easy to look back and I think start to look at things that are and say, I wish they were when I was there. In reality, they were there probably. And I just wasn't a mindset at the time to understand what they were, what they are. But I do have to again credit my parents uh, that they put me on the right track. They didn't baby me, but they didn't turn me loose either. And so it was kind of the guardrails were there, but they were pretty broad. And I thank God for that. And I hope that I've in some way done the same kind of thing for my kids. They've been, all my kids are pretty successful. And, I guess the one thing I would say, and it goes back to, I was at a meeting not too long ago, and I had a young lady come up to me and she said, Mr. Kunz. I said, yeah. She says, I know you don't remember me, but and it was like 20 years ago or so. She said, we were at a meeting and you spoke and I came up to the stage after and we talked for a few minutes and you told me one of the most important things that you learned from another mentor of mine, Marty Reuter, was to claim all unclaimed territory. And she says, I didn't understand it at first, but then you kind of explained it and I walked away still kind of misunderstood. But she says, I think I did what you said that model is about. And she was extremely successful. I mean, not only in her career, but financially was, I mean, unbelievably wealthy. And she says, I just want to thank you for that. And I think those are the payoffs when you can have somebody come back that you've had an influence on and have them tell you that you did.
Yeah, and that, I think we'll have you back for a follow-up podcast. I think on that one I'll list out everything, because one of them is one of the first ones you shared was claim unclaimed territory, and there's like so many of them. And I think another one, I don't know if it's how you tell the story, Tom, or I don't know if it's just your presence, or I'm not sure. I haven't figured it out, but I'm only 60, so I'm young. I'll figure it out. um, but it seems like people don't people don't listen to me or other people the way I listen to you.
It's interesting because it was helped me teach a class last week in New York, and it was about we call our agents advisors, and it was these were not new people. They've been in the business a while, and I put a program together that you put in 8 inputs and it tells you based on what you want to accomplish, how many contacts a day you need to make 5 days a week. And I'm sitting here listening to these folks talk, and you know, it wasn't a lot. Most of them were like 10 to 15, maybe max 20. And then it dawned on me that they looked at themselves, and I told them, I said, you know, I think part of the issue is you look at yourself as a real estate agent instead of a business owner entrepreneur. Because when you change that mindset from somebody you know, I've been hired on for this broker for me to go out and do their business, versus I'm bringing my company to this organization and I'm going to go they're going to make money off of me, but I'm going to also make money myself and collectively share that information. And I could just see their faces like, wow, interesting.
Yeah, and that's where, remember, we were in Tennessee and doing an event, and we stopped at a Subway shop for lunch, and we were driving. And you said, "Hey, Mark, have you ever thought about, Life Masteries Institute putting the personality stuff into a mobile app?" And I said, "I had, and they're working on it." And I don't know that we could squeeze that in next time, but maybe we'd have a third one. But it's amazing. And so they've got that now, and they've got in this mobile app, they've got the life balance wheel. They've also got a business balance wheel. They've got
Wow.
they've got another one. I don't know if it's a friendship balance wheel. I think it might be like a marriage balance wheel. And then they've got a life vision passion circle that's incorporating AI into it. So you plug in all the things that you're passionate about, and then AI will go ahead and give you your life vision. I don't think that's as good as a human being is, but it's cool. I mean, it's neat to see it work. So they're doing a lot of things on that. And so if you're, as you're participate, like I would encourage you as share this podcast with, I don't know, at least 2 other people that you care about. Like we care, but do we do care? And so share this with 2 other people that you think, it might be valuable. And then rather than be a spectator, be a participant. And so you just click on, the mobile app here. You just click on that. And then what will happen is Life Masteries are a nonprofit organization, amazing organization. And they'll go ahead and introduce you to 1 or 2 other interesting people in here in the group. And they'll introduce you to 1 or 2 other interesting people, and you'll get to know them, they'll get to know you. And it's pretty like community. It's like and depth of relationship and connection. So be a participant, don't be a spectator, and do that. If you have any questions on anything, we covered today, connect with the individual who invited you to participate in today's session, have a great conversation with them, thank them. And then, or if you have any other questions, feel free to call toll free 888-230-2300, outside the US 630-393-9909. And always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Thank you, Tom. Look forward to having you back for another session. We'll see you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.